The loss of Vice Admiral Holland left Wake Walker in command of the ships immediately present. Believing that Tovey would arrive with the bulk of the home fleet early the next day, Wake Walker decided that the correct policy in the then present situation was for his ships to maintain contact with the enemy, but to not re-engage. Throughout the morning, as they continued to maintain contact with the enemy, just as they had done throughout the night of the 23rd of May and through the early hours of the 24th, a series of shattering reports were sent out from Norfolk and Suffolk detailing the position and speed of Bismarck. With the loss of the Hood, the Admiralty began to marshal its forces. Out in the Atlantic, hmsrodney, following receipt of the news that Hood had been sunk, received a signal from the Admiralty timed 3 minutes past 9, which instructed the battleship to take up a course of 290 degrees towards Bismarck with her destroyer screen and Britannic. At 10:36 a.m., a second signal, sent in the name of the First Sea Lord, Admiral Sir Dudley Pound, reached Rodney, which stated, "If Britannic cannot keep up, leave her behind with one destroyer." So it was that at noon, approximately 500 miles to the west of Ireland, Rodney parted company with Britannic, leaving the destroyer Eskimo to continue to provide an escort. HMS Ramillies, a veteran battleship of the Revenge class, armed with 8 15-inch guns and capable of 20 knots, which had been operating out of Canada to provide escort to convoys during the first 1,000 miles of their journey across the Atlantic, was eastbound in the mid-Atlantic, providing escort to convoy HX-127. At 8 a.m., Ramillies and HX-127 were 800 miles to the south-southwest of Cape Farewell and 1,000 miles to the south of the German task group. Instructions were sent by the Admiralty to the battleship's commanding officer, Captain Arthur Reed, instructing him to leave the convoy and to steer for a position to the west of Bismarck. During the late morning, the Admiralty earmarked HMS Revenge, another Atlantic convoy veteran, then at anchor in Halifax, Nova Scotia, for possible use if the Bismarck sailed westward. Subsequently, Revenge was ordered to raise steam with all dispatch and to proceed to sea. Meanwhile, signals were sent to the cruisers Galatea and Hermione, ordering them to proceed to the Faroes to refuel unless otherwise ordered by Tovey, while HMS Nelson was ordered north from Freetown to Gibraltar, and the cruiser Edinburgh ordered into the North Atlantic from her patrol position around the Azores. Ashore, the German authorities knew nothing of the events that had transpired and would remain in ignorance for hours yet to come. Group North had received the first contact report from Bismarck during the evening of the 23rd of May, but since then had been relying on intercepted British signals to keep abreast of the situation. It was known that 2 cruisers had commenced shadowing in the Denmark Strait and that they were still in contact. It was also known that shortly after 5:30 a.m. on the 24th of May, a second British unit had made contact, but since then nothing had been heard. While the situation was worrying, it appeared in no sense critical. Admiral Karls presumed that the radio silence from Bismarck was merely another example of Lutjens' resistance. The details of what had transpired in the Denmark Strait began to filter through to Group West from 1:30 p.m. onwards. The news of the Battle of the Denmark Strait came as a complete surprise. Visibility during the 24th of May remained patchy all day. with mist coming and going. At times, Bismarck was visible from Norfolk and Prince of Wales. At other times, only the radar of Suffolk allowed contact to be maintained. During the forenoon, morale aboard Bismarck remained high. While they had been unable to shake off the shadowing British through frequent alterations of course, it was only a matter of time before they would do so. And if British reinforcements arrived, the general feeling existed that they too would be dealt with just as Hood and Prince of Wales had been. In the skies above, Sunderland and Catalina flying boats appeared and disappeared amongst the cloud cover. The aircraft were a nuisance, but so long as the shadowing cruisers remained in contact, they were to be expected. Few doubted that, with nightfall, they would shake off the enemy, sail for a rendezvous with one of the prepositioned tankers, bunker, repair the damage, and then resume the operation. It therefore came as a surprise when the news circled around the Bismarck that the ship was making for Saint-Nazaire, and that Prinz Eugen was to be detached to conduct cruiser warfare independently. At 2:30 p.m., Lutjens signalled his intentions to detach Prinz Eugen to Brinkmann.
Intend to shake Stoker as follows. During rain squall, the Bismarck will change course to the west. Prinz Eugen will maintain course and speed until he is forced to change position or for 3 hours after departure of Bismarck. Subsequently, Prinz Eugen is released to take on oil from Belchen or Lothringen. Afterwards, pursue independent cruiser war. Implementation upon Q-word Hood.
This was the first news that Brinkmann had received that the two ships were to part company, for Lutjens had not informed him of his signal to Group West, in which he announced that Bismarck was bound for Saint-Nazaire. Puzzled by the signal, Brinkmann imagined that the object of the manoeuvre was for one of the two ships to break away from the shadowing cruisers. He assumed that it would be Bismarck that would break away, as Prinz Eugen, with her superior speed, would stand a better chance of shaking off the British later. He remained completely in the dark as to Lutjens' intentions for Bismarck after contact with the British had been broken. A little over an hour later, at 3:40 p.m., amidst a rain squall, the light signal "Execute Hood" was flashed from Bismarck, which increased speed to 28 knots and altered course to the west. Within 20 minutes, Bismarck was back on station in the wake of Prinz Eugen, having been sighted by Suffolk in position 13 miles off her starboard quarter. Having taken up station once more astern Prinz Eugen, at 3:59 p.m., Lutjens signalled to Brinkmann, "A heavy cruiser stands off to starboard." Upon receipt of this signal, Brinkmann was certain that the two ships would now remain together. Many of those on the bridge of Prinz Eugen were somewhat surprised when Bismarck reappeared in the cruiser's wake, with a number questioning why Bismarck did not engage the shadowing British ships. The two ships remained in company until just after 6 p.m, when the order was once more flashed from Bismarck, "Execute Hood." As those on the bridge of Prinz Eugen watched, Bismarck altered course. Slowly, the mist swallowed her bulk, leaving just her fighting top to slide down the sky, which soon also disappeared. Suffolk was the first to notice that something was amiss. Bismarck was last seen broad on the port bow at a range of 15 miles. Within minutes of entering the rain squall, radar placed Bismarck dead ahead at a range of 10 miles. It appeared to be an ambush. Captain Ellis ordered full speed and put the helm hard over to open the range. As Suffolk settled on to an easterly course, Bismarck emerged from the rain squall just aft of the starboard beam and opened fire. As Bismarck opened fire, Suffolk began to produce a smoke screen. While under fire, Ellis decided to quickly alter course in an effort to thwart the German gunners. The first salvo from Bismarck fell some distance to starboard, while the second landed much closer. The shells of the third salvo landed a tenth of a mile astern of Suffolk. As Bismarck fired, Suffolk responded in kind, but at a price. The blast from the guns of B turret trained abaft the beam shattered the windows of the bridge and dismantled the flimsy covering that had been fitted to provide bridge watchkeepers with shelter in the Arctic conditions. Wind and spray now drove directly onto the bridge coaming. Suffolk had been in contact with the enemy for almost 24 tense and exhausting hours. Discomfort would now reinforce fatigue on the bridge. As Suffolk retired out of gunnery range, at the limit of her own gunnery range, Prince of Wales opened fire against Bismarck. Norfolk too entered the fray, more of a gesture of protection for Suffolk than of any realistic hope of hitting the German battleship, for she was well outside of the cruiser's gunnery range. For their part, the Germans had preempted the British attack plan. Aboard Norfolk, Wake Walker watched on as 3 8-inch salvos from his flagship fell short. Prince of Wales, meanwhile, fired 12 salvos, none of which found their mark, although, from Suffolk, it appeared that the British battleship managed to straddle her German counterpart. At the range of just over 17 miles from which Prince of Wales was engaging, she was an obscure target for Bismarck, which did not return fire. With Bismarck ceasing fire as Suffolk disappeared behind a smoke screen and her own salvos falling short of the mark, at 7 p.m., Prince of Wales checked fire. During this brief action, the unreliability of Prince of Wales's 14-inch guns was again demonstrated. At 7:23 p.m., Leach reported to Wake Walker that 2 of the guns in A turret were out of action. The number 1 gun in A turret ceased functioning after 2 salvos due to the central hoist breaking down. The number 3 gun was temporarily out of action following the firing of salvo 11, when a round in the central ammunition hoist slid forward until its nose jammed the arrestor. With 1 of the guns of A turret already out of action, this left the battleship with only 1 gun operational in A turret. A little over 5 minutes before Leach reported the issues with A turret, Wake Walker sent a signal to Prince of Wales, ordering her not to open fire except in response to the enemy. While the short engagement between Bismarck and the shadowing British ships did not result in any damage or casualties, it altered the strategic situation. Lutjens had achieved his aim of successfully detaching Prinz Eugen. Now, with only 1 ship to manoeuvre, Lutjens' chance of shaking off his pursuers had greatly improved. The most fundamental change, however, concerned the disposition of Wake Walker's ships. Following the action that had just unfolded, Wake Walker decided against having Suffolk return to her previous position on the right flank. Rather, Suffolk was to remain close to the flagship in case Bismarck reversed course and attacked once more. The starboard quarter aft of Bismarck was therefore left empty. Around 7:30 p.m., a signal was received by Wake Walker which notified him that U-boats were active in the area in which he was sailing. Consequently, in an effort to throw off the aim of any lurking U-boats and to minimize the chance of being hit by a torpedo, he issued an order for a zigzag course to be assumed. So it was that Norfolk, Suffolk, and Prince of Wales began to zigzag, altering course 30 degrees either side of their mean course every 10 minutes. This signal was followed an hour later at 8:30 p.m. by another signal which arrived aboard Norfolk for Wake Walker from the Admiralty. This signal notified him that he could expect an air attack launched from Victorious any time after 10 p.m. The arrival of this signal coincided with the period when contact with Bismarck had been lost, although there was no cause for concern. Contact would ultimately not be regained until around 11:30 p.m., when Bismarck was observed and Norfolk reported that the enemy was sailing approximately 11 nautical miles ahead of her. As the evening wore on, the full gravity of the fuel situation on board Bismarck came to the attention of Lindemann and Lutjens. The damage control teams were unable to access the forward pump room and were having severe trouble in transferring what fuel remained to the forward reserve tanks. Further to this, damage control teams were facing extreme difficulty in controlling the leaks in the boiler room. With British ships in close pursuit, fuel expenditure had to be carefully monitored, and the ship's maximum speed reduced to 26 knots due to this, as well as to the loss of 2 boilers. Owing to the constraints brought about by the fuel situation, the plan formulated earlier to lure the pursuing ships over a U-boat trap had to be abandoned. This also meant that the suggestion from Group West that Bismarck delay her arrival at Saint-Nazaire or Brest was unviable. Subsequently, at 5 to 9 that evening, Lutjens signalled Group West,
"Shaking off Stalker impossible because of enemy radar. Due to fuel will proceed directly to Saint-Nazaire."
This signal from Lutjens confirmed to those ashore that it was almost impossible for Bismarck to shake off the pursuing British ships, owing to the efficiency of their radar. For the first time, Group West became aware that the Bismarck was in a dangerous position. Calculations by Group West indicated that the ship should have 5,100 tons of fuel oil on board following the battle in the Denmark Strait. The signal from Lutjens also implied that it was necessary to maintain high speed in order to reach France owing to the British ships in pursuit. If Bismarck could not evade or outrun them, then this would drain what fuel remained on board. With fuel still leaking out of the ship from the vicinity of the port forward boiler room, it was impossible to conceal Bismarck's position. With this, so long as the pursuing British ships remained in contact, there was a real possibility that Bismarck could be intercepted and sunk by overwhelming force. Aware of the reports to and from Naval Group West, at 9:31 p.m, Admiral Karl Dönitz took it upon himself to reposition his U-boats. Orders were rattled out to U-43, U-93, U-46, U-94, and U-66, as well as to U-557. The U-boats were instructed to take up new positions by 6 a.m. on the 25th of May along the projected track of Bismarck towards Saint-Nazaire. In addition to this, Dönitz arranged to have 5 U-boats positioned at 20-mile intervals to intercept pursuing British ships in the Bay of Biscay. Naval Group West estimated that Bismarck would arrive in this area during the early morning hours of the 27th. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more updates, like and share. You can also help to support the channel at Patreon. Details are in the description box below. If you enjoyed this content, why not also check out my Substack page for more unique historical insights and articles. A link to the page is in the description box below.